I definitely want to touch on zero-sum theory and how it applies to jiu-jitsu. No need to overcomplicate this. The basic idea of zero-sum, we start a match, and Stephan and I have an equal number of resources at our disposal. Okay? Let's assume we are perfectly the same athletically. All right? Same weights, we can lift the same amount of weight, we have the same amount of experience in athletics. It's virtually the same person. Okay? In zero sum, right now, neither of us have control. 0 equals 0. If I get a grip on Stephan, let's say I get a grip on his collar, I get a grip on his sleeve, and I start to off-balance him in whatever fashion, right? I now have some control that's effective I'm breaking his posture, I'm opening up his structure, so I'm separating his arm from his body, and now I start doing whatever I want to do to continue to break his alignment. So we started off where our resources were 0-0. I've gained control over Stephan. The goal of the game of jiu-jitsu is to control your opponent to the degree that they end up having to tap because you're controlling them so thoroughly. So if I gain control over Stephan at the beginning of a match, like I get grips on his sleeves, whatever the case may be, and I start separating his limbs from his body, I now have more control over Stephan, and he is that much less able to control me. So it's extremely critical that if you're competing or trying to win a match, and this is where the methodology of how to learn jiu-jitsu and how to actually compete jiu-jitsu differ. If you gain control over your opponent, their ability to control you is now diminished to the exact degree that you're now controlling them. If I end up on your back and I have you in a rear naked choke, your ability to control me is almost 0, unless, you cross your legs and it's the end of the match, So recognize that every time your opponent gains ground on you, you're now that much less able to beat your opponent. Like, you're going to be that much less effective at beating them. So this is kind of what plays into the idea that jiu-jitsu is not magic. If you let someone get on your back, if you let a beginner put you in a locked-in rear naked choke, I mean, you might be able to get out if they're very new or very weak, but generally speaking, the idea is zero sum. Jiu-jitsu is a zero-sum game. If I let you gain control over me, if I start a match in a turtle position, I start at a deficit. You're at a 70% control, and I'm at a negative 70. So the sum is 0 between those two things. As I gain control over you, you lose the ability to control me. So it's really important in a competition situation that I never let my opponent get control over me. I have 100% of my resources. I begin attacking. As soon as they control me at all, I put all my resources. So it's like Stephan gets a grip on my wrist. Okay? This might be diminishing my ability to control him by a fraction of a percent. But let's say it's 1%. So now Stephan is 1 and I'm negative 1. I now have, let's just say I have 99% of my resources left. I'm going to focus all 99% of those resources on breaking this so I can get back to 0 to then re-engage with 100% of my resources to begin attacking. Mm-hmm. If Stephan has control of me to a degree where, he's a plus 30 and I'm a minus 30, if I'm a minus 30, that means, let's say maybe he's got my leg up or, I don't know, he's past my guard. That's a really good example. He's past my guard. He's in a position like this, okay? He has a massive amount of control over me. If I, from here, am like, I'm going to sub you, like I'm going to get an armbar. Of course, there is an opportunity for me to transition into a submission, but my ability to do so is greatly diminished because he's in a much more advantageous position. He can sub me from here in a number of different ways. He is in the best position possible. That's a horrible fucking one. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But that's the idea. Yeah, whatever. I'll just finish
my
that.
priority is not to sub him here. My
priority from here is not to try to sub Stephan. It's to use what resources I have left to get him off me and to get my legs back in between us so we can get back to a neutral position so I can use all of my resources to attack. I hope it's clear. Jiu-jitsu is a zero-sum game. It plays into so many things, so many exchanges. It's not magic. If you end up in a dominant position, it's dominant because they have that much less of an ability to affect you, and you've put them into a position where you have an advantage over them because you're controlling them to that degree.
So jiu-jitsu is a zero-sum game, but jiu-jitsu training is not zero-sum because if we do it properly, we're both learning at the same time.
Exactly, which is a positive sum game. To get real happy, jolly here.
Well, on that jolly note, we should move on and actually start doing some of this stuff.
For sure. Yeah, let's do that.